JB here, Monday, August 12th, 2024. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Talk really quick about the markets, what's going on this week, and talk some of the names I'm looking at. First, futures are higher this morning. This time last week, futures were tumbling. Worldwide markets were in a tailspin. You had the jobless report from the previous Friday. Then over the weekend, then you had issues in Japan. The Nikkei tumbled its most since 1987. I think it was down over 12%. Concerns that they were starting to raise rates, so behind the curve. And then you had folks who did that supposed yen carry trade were getting hammered, having to sell equities in the U.S. markets. A whole a, a recipe for disaster, right? A big market crash was coming. We did sell off the most since 2022. I believe it was November. And then markets found some footing, a little volatility on Wednesday. Then we had the jobless claim numbers come in better than expected. And then we saw a nice rally, the biggest rally since November 2022 as well on Thursday, and then a little follow through on Friday. So hopefully markets find a little bit of footing here. The VIX is still over 20. So that's maybe a little concern, but we do have CPI data Wednesday, so that's going to be important. 8:30 in the morning. We have retail sales data coming out on Thursday. There's also some retailers reporting, Walmart, Home Depot. Those will certainly be more important as people are worrying about the slowing economy. So I put on the watch list already. It's got to be a Goldilocks number on Wednesday, because I think if it's too hot, folks are going to say, well, the Fed is not going to cut rates in September, and markets will sell off. And then I think if it's too cold, the folks are going to say, oh no, the Fed didn't cut rates soon enough, and we're going to fall into a recession. So we need a Goldilocks number, inline number, set the Fed up to cut rates in September. You don't have concerns on either side. And then I think the markets can find some footing. If not, it's probably going to be back under 520 in a SPY. I hope that's at least the scenario I don't want to happen, but have to be open to different scenarios playing out. Looking at the SPY, 535 looks like some resistance. We can break through that. Maybe we can work our way up into the 540s this week. I'd actually prefer a little bit of chop first, get the VIX down, and then go from there. So that's the SPY. Look at the IWM as well, 207 and change. That 50-day moving average, it's butting up against the last 4 sessions. Hopefully that finally finds a way to break through and small caps can start to outperform. I think that'll be the best case scenario for the markets. And then last but not least, you look at the VIX, and I forget, it was Charles Bilo, whoever you pronounce his name, came out with a stat. The VIX had its biggest 4-day reversal in history. Biggest, I think it was 47% over 4 sessions. Despite that big decline, the VIX was down 14% on Friday, and it was only down 12% on the week. So would have liked to see it, especially with the market, the S&P pretty much being flat on the week. Despite those big swings, you would like to see that come out. So hopefully this week that starts to happen. So individual names, first I have Clear Secure, still watching that for September strikes. I'd already locked in August 24.68s. The stocks closing up 5 sessions in a row after, well, post pre-earnings it was green, and then post earnings after the gap and move, still holding the gains. That's a good sign. Riding the upper Bollinger Band. I think a move into the 30s is coming. So we'll look for some September strikes. The 28s look pretty interesting on risk reward basis. I'm going to wait for the 26 handle to break first, so that's Clear Secure. Added some Dell strikes, talked about on the watch list last week. I had some Dell Lottos for a reversal at the start of the week. Thankful to be able to cover the costs on that before it fell with Supermicro. But at some point, it's going to have another 10 to 15% multi-day move to the upside. Hoping it happens this week. If it finds some strength over 93 or even 94, I may look to get some calls into next week. I think this situation with Dell, it's like they're 100% AI and they're not 100% AI, right? And I don't think a lot of the move that happened from the 70s, 80s, and 90s since March is all just based on AI. I think they have a business with a lot of debt. They're able to start to leverage some of their growth and profits to start getting that debt in line. I think it trades over $100 in the coming days. So that's Dell. I'm not going to talk too much about EMVX. I posted on Friday as well, that 200-day moving average. It seems like the trapdoor, right? I always call that when you have a stock that has some weakness, a trapdoor move when finally the bids come out, the support's gone, and the sellers just continue not only selling, they're shorting. The new short interest came out last week. on Friday. So Friday after the close, the new set that's the settlement dates for July 31st. But then companies have to submit. Well, the exchanges have to submit the data. Then it goes to the Nasdaq or what have you, and then they compile it and then they post it. So the settlement date was is July 31st, the newest update. So I mean, it's a lagging, and it's 2 weeks behind, but it still gives you an indication. Short interest up on that. So see what happens here today. If it can hold that a 1080 or so area on the 200-day moving average, if it doesn't find a bid today, I may look for some more inexpensive puts to play for some downside for a move into the single digits. That's the NVX. Baba reports earnings. I believe it's Thursday before the open. These China ADR names. I mean, Baidu found that bid on that tight Bollinger Band, not the pincher, at the start of July, and then has just been doing nothing ever since. And at some point, I always talk about with Baidu. I think a lot of what they've done is still underappreciated. Unfortunately, it falls under the whole blanket of what the whole China markets have been doing and the China economy and things like that. Bob reports before the open Thursday, so maybe a little sympathy move. Not only if it's a strong beat, but I think Baidu can go on its own merits, and then they report earnings next week. So I may look to get some more Baidu calls. Uh, LLY was upgraded this morning by Deutsche Bank. I think they had a hold rating, $725 price target, and they upgrade the stock to a buy and a $1,025 price target. It's like you've had a hold rating this whole time. So, I mean, they did kind of time it a little bit on that pullback, but it's rallying in the pre-market. And it's funny, you do the math, and VKTX is a $5 billion company right now. No, 6.3 billion. And it's like every 75 cents that LLY goes up is one VKTX. But we'll see what happens here. Still love VKTX. Short data came out for that as well, and it actually increased over 1.8 million more shares were added to the short interest. That's was that not? It's another 900 million shares are sold short on VKTX. Just remarkable. It's like who had in the last, and this is from the last rating was July 15th. So from July 15th to July 31st, whatever that is, 9 trading sessions. I don't know if the holidays, anything was in there, but you're talking 900 million shares of the selling was folks selling shares short that they didn't own, right? So, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, but then you see the action on the stock and then you wonder, you realize why it just can't get going. After its earnings, you would think it, got up to 70 and it's been selling off ever since. I just think the folks have big money, know there's an opportunity here with near-term catalyst kind of not there unless there's some M&A. So there's an opportunity for folks to, I wouldn't call it manipulation, but take advantage of this situation. They do that a lot with the biotechs. Hopefully at some point able to really get going, because I think it's going to need some type of squeeze to shake out the shorts. Gets over, if it could break 70 or so in the coming weeks, I think that'd bode well. So that's VKTX, which of course brings me into Turn. And, Turn's just been struggling since its earnings, trading down again on Friday. Still looking for some October strikes to encompass the data. Like I'm talking about Turn like a broken record, but at some point I'll get the October strikes. My bull case on Turn, that the oral GLP-1 data is due in September. They have, I think it's $250 million in cash on hand. And let's see what their valuation. They might trade 1 times cash now. Oh, it's close. No, half times cash. So they have a $463 million market cap, and 250 million of that is cash. So you're taking, $210 million company if you take out the cash, with the prospects of having some kind of game-changing GLP-1 drug. The only issue is phase 1 study. But again, their earnings, they already talked about there's no adverse effects and nobody dropped out of the study. So right off the bat, they're ahead of the game with some of these other companies that have had GLP-1 data come out. So that's Turn. iRobot. I mean, what else? Not much I can say about iRobot. There's no catalyst I can see to speak of. Similar to some of these other names that I've traded that have issues with debt. It's a turnaround story. So I don't know if there was something in the earnings I missed that maybe I should revisit. But I'm just going to continue to hold my strikes. You have to think when the new CEO came on, he did an insider buy. You have to think he's going to do another insider buy. His average is 12. I think it's like 12.43, and it's sitting down here at 7 and change. So hopefully it starts find some footing, and that can start to squeeze as well. And then last but not least is WW. I added more strikes on Friday just as that insider buy from SEMA came out. SEMA's the CEO. If you've heard my rants before, I think she's a sharp knife. She knows what she's doing. The fact that she has enough conviction in the company that it's not going bankrupt, right? Similar story to some of these other names, right? But with iRobot as well. These are turnaround stories, lots of debt, but if they can start reversing that trend, show signs that, hey, we're not going bankrupt. Not only that, we have our debt under control and we're going to return to profits, which they've already announced cost cutting measures. I think this starts to melt higher back into the 120s, 130s, and then above and beyond. I think that's it. I'm trying to think of some of the other names I'm watching today. I mean, I always have recently Block and PayPal on watch. At some point, I think PayPal's back over $70, but it's taking its time. That's about it, folks. Let's have a great day. 23 minutes to the open. Rock and roll.